From Vermont Public, this is The Frequency. I'm Mitch Wertlieb. It's Tuesday, February 11th, and here are today's headlines. Vermont and at least a dozen other states filed a lawsuit Friday attempting to stop the Treasury Department from transferring sensitive data to the Trump administration's Department of Government Efficiency. Attorney General Charity Clark says the Department of Government Efficiency, spearheaded by Elon Musk, wants access to Social Security numbers, tax filings, and other private data. She says that could pose serious security risks to Vermonters.
So having that private information out in the world or having someone treat it cavalierly, as I think this administration has done, puts Americans at risk. And by Americans, I mean practically everybody.
The suit alleges the transfer of data from the Treasury Department violates numerous provisions in the Federal Administrative Procedures Act, and it seeks a temporary restraining order that would prohibit the department from handing over that information. Vermont's Agency of Transportation is also at odds with recent moves made by the Trump administration. The agency says it cannot move forward on a statewide electric vehicle charging program after the administration put a hold on a pot of federal funding. VTrans hoped to use about $9 million from the National Electric Vehicle Infrastructure Program for 11 charging sites in towns along Vermont's busiest highways. Brattleboro's Sustainability Coordinator Stephen Dodson says the town was looking forward to the new charging stations.
We've been seeing it as a real potential boon to downtown, to business stimulus, and to just creating the kind of economy that we want that's more regenerative and sustainable.
The Federal Highway Administration announced last week that all federally funded EV charging work would have to stop until further notice. Montreal's McGill University is set to cut its annual budget by $45 million, or about 5%, while cutting up to 500 jobs. The Montreal Gazette reports the university is facing a $15 million budget deficit this year that could balloon to an accumulated deficit of $194 million by 2028 if corrective actions are not taken. McGill Provost Christopher Manfredi told students and staff at a town hall last week that the university will continue its hiring freeze and may cut overtime and not replace staff members who retire or quit. The cuts are expected to affect academic and administrative positions. And in education news potentially affecting K-12 public schools in Vermont, Education Secretary Zoe Saunders released new details last Thursday about the Scott administration's plan to overhaul Vermont's education system. Among them, a proposal to give every student the option to enter a lottery to attend, quote, school choice schools, which could be public or private. Public school advocates immediately panned the idea as a dramatic expansion of the voucher system currently in place in certain communities. But Saunders said she actually believes the governor's proposal, by imposing new rules, would likely reduce the number of private schools eligible to receive public dollars.
The idea that this plan is siphoning money away from public schools is just misinformed. This plan actually eliminates some of the current Vermont practices where public dollars follow Vermont students to private schools outside of the state and sometimes outside of the country.
Saunders added that Governor Phil Scott's plan assumes the existing moratorium on creating new private schools remains in place. Coming up, we mark the 20th anniversary of Champlain College's video game development program with a trip to Montreal, where students learn about the inner workings of some of the gaming industry's biggest studios. That's after this.
Thanks for listening to The Frequency, where support comes from VITA, supporting business growth and innovation in the Green Mountain State. From agriculture to manufacturing, energy to food production, find solutions that turn your business dreams into reality. Visit VEDA.org and see how VITA can help make it happen.
Champlain College last year celebrated the 20th anniversary of its video game development program. For part of the curriculum, students can spend time in Montreal, learning how some of the industry's biggest game studios work. As Vermont Public's Bryant Denton reports, students' time abroad reflects the hands-on nature of the college's game program.
Montreal is known for its cultural festivals and poutine, its historical architecture, and an underground walkable city. But it also just happens to be one of the gaming capitals of the world, home to studios like Behavior Interactive, known for the game Dead by Daylight, and its latest title, The Casting of Frank Stone, released last September. In the fall, the company hosted students from Champlain College for a Q&A session and workplace tour.
The time is running. You guys have great questions. I love it. Thank you.
Behavior employees talked about the passion and persistence needed to carve out a life making video games.
What was the game that convinced you to go into the gaming industry?
I was doing stuff in Second Life. I built like a nightclub for someone. That was my first dev experience.
Oh my gosh.
The relationship between Champlain and Montreal's gaming ecosystem isn't one-sided. The college's game development program functions as sort of a professional pipeline. Some of the Behavior Interactive employees at the Q&A were Champlain alumni. The curriculum for students has evolved through the decades, growing from just a few different classes to 7 distinct programs, allowing students to gain comprehensive knowledge of the field, from conception, programming, production, marketing, distribution, and more. Margot Lissat from Behavior Interactive says students are ready for a job when they finish the program.
Champlain students have the opportunity to actually create a game with different disciplines, which prepares them to be working in a studio-like environment. And that makes them stand out. Not a lot of universities are offering that.
Lissat is talking about the capstone project at Champlain. Each year, the senior class develops a game, mimicking production cycles used in the real world. Here's some background music from a game produced last year, called Moai Mayhem. Students first focus on working collaboratively to bring their game design concepts to life, leading into weekly feedback sessions from classmates.
After some intensive ideation and prototyping, the seniors settle on the idea that they want to aim for a green light presentation and pitch.
That was Jonathan Ferguson. He teaches game design, development, and history at Champlain. I spoke with him after wrapping up an exhibit celebrating 20 years of the game studio, which featured more than 100 student games.
So we're looking at a process that takes, a whole 4 years of undergraduate education, culminating in a year-long development cycle.
Part of that development cycle can take place across the border in Montreal, a city that's become a fertile ground for aspiring game creators.
Yes, it's really an immersion into our culture and into the gaming industry.
Geneviève Lord is in charge of Champlain College's Montreal campus, which houses around 20 to 30 students in the heart of downtown. She says the game company Ubisoft was lured to the city in 1997 with tax credits and other incentives. Other studios followed suit. Today, Montreal houses companies of all sizes, with branches of large corporations like Square Enix or Warner Brothers, along with untold amounts of indie developers. Winnie Song used to design games for Square Enix Montreal and is now an assistant professor at New York University. She knows firsthand how powerful a student project can be in opening doors. You're hearing a track right now from the game that got Song a job at the Mega Studio, responsible for Hitman and Tomb Raider, among other hit franchises.
So I hadn't even applied there, but they reached out to me being like, can we do an interview? We're looking for a game designer.
Square Enix had seen a split-screen strategy game Song made called Bad Blood.
Yeah, it was a little project that I worked on my own, and they were just impressed by the design of it, which was pretty simple.
She's being modest. Bad Blood came in second place at a showcase at the 2015 Game Developers Conference in San Francisco.
So I tell my students all the time, I'm like, your final project has to be your name card, because that's the thing that people will want you for.
Ubisoft Montreal developed long-standing IPs like The Prince of Persia and Assassin's Creed. Another part of the studio's legacy is hosting a competition for Champlain and other college students to design games. Practical experience and face time with established companies goes a long way, as the game industry is both competitive and volatile. Margot Lissat with Behavior Interactive says the field had a huge peak of growth during the pandemic, followed by mass layoffs, game cancellations, and studio acquisitions, mergers, and shutdowns in the past 2 years.
So it can be pretty scary right now for graduates to actually find a job, but it's just cycles. Life is full of cycles, right? This is one of them.
While jobs are harder to come by, Lissat has some advice for students.
What I always tell them is continue working on their own project. They should not lose hope.
After all, in a bad year, Champlain College says about 3/4 of students still find jobs in the game industry within a year of graduation, while 85% to nearly all graduates find positions in a really good one. As we've learned, it helps when students have something to show for their time in the program. For Vermont Public, I'm Bryant Denton.
Thanks for listening to The Frequency today. We had additional reporting from Peter Hirschfeld, Howard Weistisman, Nathaniel Wilson, and Lola Dufour. Our executive producer is Kevin Trevelyan, and our music is by Blue Dot Sessions. I'm Mitch Wertlieb. Talk to you tomorrow.
Each morning, it's a new opportunity, a chance to start fresh. Up First from NPR makes each morning an opportunity to learn and to understand. Choose to join the world every morning with Up First, a podcast that hands you everything going on across the globe and down the street, all in 15 minutes or less. Start your day informed and anew with Up First by subscribing wherever you get your podcasts.